Good morning everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And for today's video, we'll be discussing about the Philippines criminal justice system. By the way, my name is Rex Senet Katian. I am a student of Jose Rizal Memorial State University and with a course of Bachelor of Science in Criminology. And now, our discussion would be focused about the first pillar of the criminal justice system, which is law enforcement. But before that, I'm going to discuss the Philippines criminal justice system. So, what is criminal justice system? Criminal justice system is the machinery which the society uses in the prevention of crime. The process is the totality of the activities of law enforcers, prosecutors, defense lawyers, judge, correction personnel, as well as those efforts of the mobilized community in crime prevention and control. Initially, it is the system or process in the community by which crime are investigated and person suspected therefore is taken into the custody of police, prosecution in court and punished if found guilty, provision being made for their correction and rehabilitation. But in shorter definition in criminal justice system is the totality of all concerted effort and activities of all agencies involved in the prevention, reduction, and control of crime. The simplest definition of criminal justice system is the machinery of the state or government which enforce the rules of conduct necessary to protect lives and property and maintain peace and order. So in brief explanation from the word machinery, which is mean that it is a tool or instrument that the government uses. So what was the reason the government used criminal justice system? So criminal justice system is used by the government to enforce the implement law of conduct. Enforcing law is in order to protect lives and property and to maintain the peace and order. So Philippines criminal justice system is a social institution and a system. So I know that lots of you are confused on how the Philippines criminal justice system becomes social institution and a system. It is a social institution, it is because the system attempt to meet society needs for law and order. As a system, criminal justice depends on due process involving the 5 pillars. Now we're going to talk about the concept of criminal justice system. First, preventing the commission of crime. Second, enforcing laws. Third, protecting lives, individual rights, and property. Fourth, removing dangerous person from the community. Fifth, deterring people from indulging in criminal activities. Sixth is investigating, apprehending, prosecuting, and enforcing penalty upon those who cannot deter from violating the rules of society. And last is rehabilitating offenders and returning them to the community as a law-abiding person and a useful citizens in the society. Social defense. Social defense refers to all system and interplay of activities in the community which addresses all negative factors affecting the health, security, and welfare of the public. Criminology. Criminology is the interbody of knowledge regarding crime and criminals and the efforts of the society to prevent and repress them. Criminological enterprise refers to all disciplines involved in the study of crime and criminals. Police, a body of civil authority which is tasked to maintain peace and order, enforce law, protect lives and properties, and ensure the public safety. Corrections. Corrections are the process or system of taking care of the custody, treatment, and rehabilitation of all convicted persons or prisoners punished by the law for the commission of an offense. Prosecution. The CJS pillar mandated by the law to bring justice all criminal cases for prosecution and prove guilt of the accused beyond reasonable doubt. Court. A court is a body of tribunal officially assembled under authority of the law, in which judicial power is vested or the administration of justice is delegated. Crime prevention. Crime prevention pertains to all government and non-government activities or programs designed to thwart, deter, prevent, and stop the crime from happening. Crime deterrence refers to the political will of the states to punish all criminals in accordance with law, to serve a lesson for others to refrain from further committing crime. Crime control refers to restraining or isolating criminals behind prison to effectively controlling them from further endangering the society, thus protecting the public from harm or damage. So now we're going to talk about the pillars of criminal justice system. In the American context, the criminal justice system is composed of only three pillars, which are law enforcement, court, and correction. In the Philippine settings, the judicial subsystem is split into two, such as court and prosecution, and was added the community described as an informal component. The five pillars of criminal justice system in the Philippines, which are the law enforcement, prosecution, court, correction, and community. The law enforcement pillar, installed at the forefront of the CJS, being the initiator of the CJS process. The police or law enforcement pillar is made up of mainly the Philippines National Police, National Bureau of Investigation, and Police Drugs Enforcement Agency. Prosecution pillar. Determine the probable cause. The prosecution pillar is made up mainly the state prosecutors in national, regional, and city or provincial level. Court pillar. The centerpiece of the CJS and the final arbiter of the law. The court are made up of the Supreme Court and such other inferior court in the land, such as the Court of Appeal, Regional Trial Courts, City and Municipal Trial Courts. Correction pillar. Correction assumes custody and rehabilitation of convicted criminals. Community pillar. Considered as the informal pillar among the five subsystems of the CJS. Community is considered as the largest component of the CJS. It is made of the various agencies in the public, especially the local government units and the private sectors, especially the non-government organizations. But in this video, we're only focusing on the law enforcement. Just like I said earlier, law enforcement pillar is still at the very forefront of the CJS, being the initiator of the CJS process. The police or law enforcement pillar is made up mainly the Philippines National Police, National Bureau of Investigation, and the Philippines Drug Enforcement Agency. Lot of numbers of government agencies are involved in law enforcement in one way or another. The kind of degree of involvement vary to general to specific. Law enforcement to enforcing standard and regulation for retaining regular government activities. In the Philippines, the law enforcement function, it is spearheaded by the Philippines National Police under the Department of Interior and Local Government and the National Bureau of Investigation. In addition, in these government offices, there are other agencies tasked with enforcing law. Among these are Philippines National Police, National Bureau of Investigation, Philippines Drugs Enforcement Agency, Bureau of Internal Revenue, Bureau of Immigration. An attached agency under the Department of Justice is tasked to enforce immigration laws. Land Transportation Office regulates land transportation industry and enforce law transportation's laws. Bureau of Customs under the Department of Finance is tasked to enforce the immigration law and tariff duties in all Philippines airports and seaports nationwide. Food and Drugs administration, enforce and regulate manufacturers of food and drugs. Philippine Coast Guard, Philippines Aviation Security Command, Maritime Industry Authority, regulates the maritime and shipping industry, Bureau of Forest Development, Bureau of Fish and Aquatic Resources, Air Transportation Office, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, operates against anti-illegal logging. DFA, Bureau of Internal Revenue, enforce tax law and regulation. The first pillar in criminal justice system refer as a initiator of action or the prime mover. Why it is called the initiator of action or prime mover? Based on my presentation of the criminal justice system has 5 pillars, which are the law enforcement, prosecution, court, and community. So the Philippines criminal justice system is a process wherein we talk about the process. There is a step-by-step procedure. So the first step or the first process, or it is safe to say that the law enforcement is the first process or step in the criminal justice system. That's why it's called the prime mover or initiator of action. Its action and decisions initially control or dominate the activities or functions of the other pillars. Since it is the first pillar or it is the first act, so which is the first who will make an action in relation in administration of criminal justice system. All of the law enforcers, all of the law enforcement act or action to be taken will have initially control or dominate the activity or function of the other pillar. So which means that whatever the law enforcement action, it will affects the other pillar of the criminal justice system. For example, the legality of arrest should be within the Constitution, the way of arresting by the police officer. And basically, it will validate by the next pillar, which is the prosecution pillar. So indirect, every action that the law enforcement taken, it will affect the other pillar. What is the objective of the law enforcement? The first objective in law enforcement is crime prevention. I know that a lot of people have confused about the difference between prevention and suppression, or what is the difference between prevention and suppression. So crime prevention, from the word itself, prevention, it is stop or avoid happen of a crime. So which means that there is no crime happen yet. So the crime prevention is the duty of the law enforcement in order to avoid such crime happen or to stop the commitment of the crime. While the suppression is, there is already a crime that the only remedy is to suppress the criminal or arrest the criminal or suppress the criminal from doing the crime. So that's the difference between the crime prevention and crime suppression. Criminal apprehension. It is the responsibility of the police to identify, locate, and apprehend offenders. Next objective would be law enforcement. It is the basic responsible of the police to enforce the law. From the word itself, law enforcement, there are in the task to enforce the law. So next would be order maintenance. One of the most troublesome responsibility of the police. So it is hard for the police officer to maintain order from the society or community which is in high crime rate. As we all know that different area of responsibilities, there have a different characteristic, where there is a area of characteristic which is peaceful and there is an area of characteristic that are messy or chaos. Criminal investigation, one of the most vital participation of the police in the criminal justice system. Why it is vital or important? It is because it is the main task of the law enforcement, perhaps the listing of the criminal and criminal's apprehension. It is the biggest contribution of the law enforcement. Next would be the public service. The police is the most visible symbol of authority. They are called upon to assist in situations such as provide security for a VIP person to a bank, funeral escort, location of missing person, or property. That's why it is called the symbol of authority. Seems in the fact that every time crime is committed, the law enforcement would be the first to take the action. The next would be the traffic regulation and motor accident investigation. The police are expected to ensure road safety for both pedestrian and motorists and assist in case of accident and emergencies. So the law enforcement or police officer is the primary responsible if ever there is a traffic accident. So it is the one of the objective of the function in law enforcement. The law enforcement consists of the officer and one of the Philippines National Police, the National Bureau of Investigation, and other agency. When they learn the commission of crime or discover them, as now called initial contact. The initial contact while the criminal justice system takes place as a police action. So for example, police assign on patrol to serve a person actually committing a crime, or police contacting from the victim to report a crime. Then the police responds by going to the scenes of the crime to investigate. Second step is to investigate. The purpose investigatory stage is to gather situational evidences and to identify the suspect and support with legal arrest. Investigate the crime, which may take form of surveillance and observation, other person and premises. Interviewing a person who have a knowledge of facts directly or indirectly with the offense. Taking photographs, avenging or entrapments, searching premises and person subject into the constitutional and examining public and other available records for retaining persons involved and getting copies for pertinent entries. The police officer, in other words, collect evidences for prosecution of the suspect in the court. This may consist the testimony of the witnesses, including inviting suspects which are invariably taken down in question and answer form. Sufficient evidence were gathered, arrest will take place. Arrest means taking person to custody with lawful order and hold the person to answer for the violation of the criminal law. So, what is criminal law? Criminal law, branch or division of law which defines crimes, traits of their nature, and provides for their punishment. Which mean the criminal law, the one who defines the crimes, and criminal law also gives the punishment for the certain act or omission. The police officer will arrest suspects by virtue of warrant of arrest issued by the judge on the basis of evidence submitted by them or the other circumstances justifying a warrantless arrest. The warrantless arrest will effected by a peace officer or a private person such as the following. The moment after the arrests are made, the detainee's person considered under the police custody and now restrictive of his freedom or movement. The police wish to search the suspect for weapon or contraband and a person who, while in custody or otherwise the price of liberty is under investigation and has the following constitutional rights among others. He must be informed of his rights to remain silent and competent and independent counsel for preferably on his own choice. It is the person cannot afford the service of the counsel, he must provided with one. These rights cannot be considered except writing in the presence of the counsel. No torture, force, violence, threat, intimidation, or any other means which the chief of the free will shall use against him. Secret detention bases, solitary, incommunicado, or other similar form of detention are prohibited. If the arresting officer or his superior believes sufficient evidence exists, charging will take place. The person will charge of a specific crime for which he had made arrest. After the formal investigation has been completed, the police must refer the investigation reports to the prosecutor office, include the evidences such as physical and documentary proof and the suspect if he is in custody. So the police must refer the case and suspect to the public prosecutor or municipal trial for preliminary investigation.